Hello everyone, thanks for having me here today. Just a quick question, who in this room has heard of PowerLedger before I get into what we're doing? Oh great, so more than 50%, that's fantastic. So for those that don't know, we're a Australian blockchain company. We form the transactive layer in electricity markets. What we do is provide a software solution. We ourselves are not an energy retailer. What we do is provide our software to existing market incumbents to solve a lot of the issues that Mark has kind of outlined in terms of the transition from centralised fossil fuel generating assets to decentralised renewable generation assets. And given the theme of this conference, I'm also bringing storage into that mix, the holy grail for renewable energy. So around the time that my grandfather was born, back in the early 1900s, and pretty much up until the the early 90s in Australia and around the world, this is what our energy markets look like. They still do, by and large, to this day. What we have generally is a big generator located as far away from your house as possible because you don't live next door to it. And what we do is we then transmit and distribute that energy a long distance before it gets to you, the consumer. That could be a business, it could be your house. I'm sure we all use electricity. We're all customers to this system. As identified in the Finkel Review, this is the largest machine in our civilization, our energy network. The network we're connected to here, it's no surprise to anyone in this room, is the national energy market, which spans over many states and territories in Australia, excluding Western Australia and the Northern Territory. But all of that stuff, all of that network infrastructure comes at a cost. And early in the century, that was the best way to deliver secure, reliable power to your household. However, with the current transition and innovation and new technologies coming into the mix, such as distributed generation, we're starting to ask questions around how much of that top-heavy, price-heavy infrastructure do we require to deliver stable, reliable electricity? Can we have a generator that's closer to the point of consumption, utilising less infrastructure? Mark outlined, there's multiple scenarios that will likely play out in the not too distant future. My personal belief and the way that a lot of policy is pushing in Australia is where we'll start to see massive asset write-downs on transmission infrastructure, and we'll start to see smarter distribution networks that can do interesting things, integrate machine learning, integrate AI, integrate blockchain, disintermediate some of the existing market incumbents, and to create a more smart and more efficient energy system. So in line with these innovations that are coming to the network, ultimately at the centre of all of that is you and I, the consumer. We ultimately are the end customer, regardless of your political persuasion, what you do for a living, what your views on climate change are. Ultimately, you get home at the end of the day and you're going to plug some device in and use electricity. In the future, we'll start to see a new form of energy use come into the market, which is electric vehicles. Uptake in Australia is quite low, but in other countries around the world, uptake is extraordinarily high. Our AEMO, our Australian Energy Market Operator, have identified that it could be up to 40% EV uptake by 2030 in Australia. And by 2025, it'll be cheaper to have an electric vehicle than it will be to have a combustion cycle engine. So these new technologies are coming into the mix as well. We will probably see a falling overall demand, and EV is likely to pick that up. But ultimately, we'll still be at the centre of that and be reliant or beholden to those that provide us electricity and have to pay for that service. So globally, what we see is most people are connected to electricity. Most people have a network that they can connect to. In Australia, we walk out in the street and see poles and wires. That's not the case for everyone in the world. So around 15% of the global population don't have access to a network. And that falls into the global side of this kind of argument. And so for those 1.2 billion people, those people don't have poles and wires outside their street, which means that they're probably relying on diesel generators, if that at all. Perhaps solar PV nowadays. it's unlikely we'll see some kind of network operator build out transmission and distribution to people in those areas because it's very costly, and if it's only 8 houses at the end of a huge feeder transmission line, the energy usage of those 8 houses will never recover that cost. So what we're starting to see is a move to a modular approach to energy delivery. That's an approach where we're starting to have embedded networks, microgrids. This will come as no surprise to a lot of us in the room. To bring it down to the Australian example, we have a very large land area, pretty much the size of North America. We have a vastly smaller population than that country. And what we end up having to do is stretch our energy infrastructure out to very small subsets of people. And so the main issues that I've just covered off on there are things around control. When you have a big network, you centralise the control mechanism. As I touched on earlier, there's a cost factor to that, cost that affects us all, sometimes in the form of tax, also in the form of our energy price. Fossil fuel and even nuclear type generators are pollution heavy. And there's also issues around access. So, for instance, you might not have network infrastructure on your street, or you may want to enter the network as a large-scale solar generator and need a power purchasing agreement, and you'll not be able to negotiate that. So, given the new technology mix coming in, given the issues that I've just identified, that culminates in this view that we may face a policy what we call the energy death spiral. Now, I believe we'll probably mitigate the energy death spiral, but that's the worst possible scenario with distributed energy coming into the market, and also distributed storage being the theme of this conference. So, the idea of the energy death spiral is that infrastructure costs a lot of money, generating it far away from your house costs a lot of money, you, the receiver of that energy, or the consumer, it costs a lot of money for you to buy electricity. And in the future, where solar PV and battery technology becomes competitive with the network, they call that grid parity, where your battery and solar system behind the meter could be cheaper and provide you more reliable, secure electricity than the market itself, becomes cheaper than staying connected to the market, you'll start to see defection from that market. So price pushes people off, and then for those that stay, the price goes up even more, which in turn pushes more people off. But what we want to do is, we definitely want to avoid that situation. Even with our 100% renewable commitment by 2050, as identified in the Finkel review, we want to avoid this situation where we have this massive stranded asset that's out on the street, the poles and the wires. And what we want to do is avoid this situation where we have a decreasing usage as a function of time. And we want to incentivise use of that network out on the street. And so with incentivization of that network, a lot of new technologies come in, and this is what PowerLedger brings to the table. So what we do is we provide a software solution that any network operator, any retailer, any embedded network manager or strata manager around the country can utilise to provide the transactional layer for renewable generation and storage in addition to existing generation and storage. So for instance, what we will have is our software going into a market where all that needs to be is a smart meter with a comms capability, and what we'll be doing is pulling or pushing data, reading meters, and then as kilowatt hours of electricity are flowing into that consumer, then payment for that will be settled immediately. And we can do that utilising the blockchain. And so where the blockchain comes from, and what it really is this tool that allows us to digitally transact value. So for instance, at the moment, if I owe someone $20 in this room, and I pull out my phone to pay you that $20, what happens is, it's actually my bank talking to your bank. We can't do that digital transaction without that bank in the middle. I mean, I could go get $20 from the ATM, the bank's still in the middle. What blockchain facilitates is this ability for us to digitally transact value. It enables me to pull out my phone, and for instance, in the case of a currency, I could transact value to you digitally, and that would happen almost instantly. And there would be no one in the way between us conducting that transaction. And so at PowerLedger, what we do is we use that mechanism, that methodology, for settling consumption of units of electricity or kilowatt hours of electricity. But it also works the other way. You don't have just to be a consumer, you can also be a prosumer, a producer and a consumer. And for instance, if you have battery technology as well, that enables you to store surplus energy behind the meter, you can then sell that energy at a time when during a time when it's peaking, when price would be more advantageous. And so what this does is it shows, as the illustrations demonstrate, this move from a centralised kind of hub and spoke network approach, an approach that was invented the year that the jukebox was invented, back in 1890. You don't see many jukeboxes these days, but we still have a big centralised network, and a move towards a more distributed network, a smarter network. And what it does is it also keeps and retains the existing network out on the street. So, all the tax dollars you've been paying over the years, you don't see that large-scale network become a stranded asset under the energy death spiral scenario. And so this is the situation I've outlined just before. And just to articulate and really drive this through, what you can really see is we have two houses here on a suburban street. We have the blockchain software in the existing network, and what's happening is house one is generating excess electricity, so more electricity than what they're currently using. I mean, for instance, people with solar at the moment, we're seeing large uptake of solar. I believe it's 1 in 4 houses nationally, according to the Clean Energy Regulator. Those people, by and large, a few of them are getting the feed-in tariff, which is a great incentive for putting energy back into the network. But a lot of people that are coming on now are just putting on solar to avoid high retail electricity costs. And so what the blockchain then does is it allows that person to then use that network and turn that surplus generation, monetising the surplus generation, and then being able to trade that locally. So in order to achieve this, we did a review of national energy markets in all different areas around the country and also around the world. So it started for us looking at how do we share energy behind the meter in apartment buildings. And we solved issues around scaling, we solved the issue around energy-hungry blockchain application, and what we ended up with was a software that we could apply over entire markets. So in order to do that, there's a number of factors that you have to consider. There's not just the technical limitations, there's obviously the legal and regulatory limitations. There's other limitations such as bank on-ramping and things like that. So what we had to do was design a platform that we can integrate into most countries around the world. And the solution that we came up to do that is a dual token system. So we have the power token, and just out of interest, does anyone in this room have any power tokens? It might not be there we go, well done. We got 2, that's great. So we have the power token, which is a cryptocurrency, which sits out on exchanges on the secondary market, and I won't go into too much detail about that. But what we also have is a Spark token, and that's what's important for the people in this room. So with the Spark token, what that is it's not a cryptocurrency, it's just a cryptographic token. In plain language, if you buy a concert ticket, you take your Australian dollars, you pay for a worthless bit of paper that says you can enter this venue at this time to see this performance. That ticket, you shouldn't scalp it, you could do it. It doesn't really have value. Like, you can't really go to the shops and pay for your shopping with that ticket. What the Spark is something quite similar. So what the Spark is it's a token that as you're consuming kilowatt hours of electricity, you have a digital wallet with these digital tokens, and what's happening is the tokens are being sent to where that energy was generated. So in Australia, 1 Spark is 1 cent. It will always be 1 cent. You buy those tokens off your application host, and what's happening is as you're consuming electricity in real time, the Sparks are leaving your wallet in real time. The inverse of that is also true. As you're producing energy in real time, you'll be seeing Sparks entering your wallet. They'll be coming from your surrounding neighbours. They'll be coming from other people within your apartment building, other people on your microgrid. And what that means is that once you get those Sparks and they're building up in your wallet, we use the blockchain to ensure that no one can duplicate those Sparks. You don't want a system where someone can just copy the Spark, because very quickly they'll have 1 million Sparks, right? But each of those Sparks is worth 1 cent. So through the application host, you can then cash those Sparks back into Australian dollars, or American dollars, or yen, or wherever your project is. So where are our projects? So we have projects all over the world at this point in time. Like I say, we are a Perth company. We're very much in the Asian time zone. In that GMT8 time zone, we're just at the end of a big triangle through Asia where 50% of the world's population reside. I'll just speak through some of our projects at a high level. We've partnered with Vector, which is an energy retailer in New Zealand, and have built a trading engine for them. We've partnered with Nest Energy, which is in Tasmania, connected to the net, and we're also providing solutions for them too. We're working with Origin Energy on the national energy market. Some of you actually might be Origin customers in this room. So, I mean, that would be potentially an option for you in the not too distant future. It didn't quite start at WGV or White Gum Valley. White Gum Valley is our first commercial trial of the platform, so that was implemented quite a while ago. And what White Gum Valley is a partnership with the federal government, the state government, and a few property developers, and Western Power, which is the network operator in Perth, Western Australia. The White Gum Valley project, what it is the federal government trying to understand how can we unlock all apartment buildings nationally to battery and solar technology. And we found that this technology, this software overlay to share a centralised battery and solar system inside of an apartment is the final remaining component to making a value proposition that can definitely be an attractive one for people who live under strata law. And what we've done is demonstrated that over 4 different developments, 2 of which are still under construction. The first 2 are up and running, fully implemented, commissioned, and are using the trading software right now. There's also an EV charger in one of those developments. And the interesting thing here is what our software does is it does all the meter reading, all the invoicing, and all the settling of energy payments almost instantly. So what that means is if you're a strata manager or live in that apartment, you're not bringing yourself more problems by putting in a battery and solar system. You don't have to have someone going around and reading all the meters and sending invoices and chasing payment, because otherwise, you would just why not just do it through the retailer? It's much easier. What our software allows you to do is go to an engineering consultant, buy the battery, buy the solar, get it in. Our software comes in and automates all of that for you. That's the behind the meter application. We've also partnered with Tech Mahindra in India, and we have a series of projects over there. So with a lot of our projects, what we do is form a strategic partnership in the regulatory environment where we're going to apply our software. And we find that's key. We're expert in the technology, we're expert in the software. We have a team with over 70 years experience in electricity markets, both in terms of writing rules and technical design. We also have a team with extensive knowledge in blockchain, which was only really made popular in 2012, so we wouldn't expect 70 years there. However, what we've found quite key for us as an Australian innovative company is to form those strategic partnerships. So Tech Mahindra in India, we've partnered with BCPG in Thailand, and also in discussions with the government for a number of large-scale implementations. We're also partnered recently with the Clean Energy Blockchain Network in the United States, and also KEPCO KEPCO, the second largest retailer in Japan. So what we did by starting small and solving problems in an apartment building, utilising blockchain and scaling it, we've then, and solving a little problem that billions of people face, we've had rapid uptake. So what it means for the people in this room, and I guess what the ask is we are looking for more projects always. We basically, if you have a project with a battery, with renewable generation, whether it's behind the meter or at the substation, providing ancillary services, we can provide a software overlay that can facilitate transactions. So what that means is, rather than using existing methods to identify how much energy has gone through, establish provenance, and bear the administrative burden for chasing up payment, we can provide all that in an automatic way. So I'll just talk about what's next. So I've really kind of touched on the transactive capability of our platform, and that works not only behind the meter at the distribution level, but also in the wholesale market and at the transmission level. Now we're also about to launch a few more applications. One that Alex pointed out is asset germination, whereby we can use cryptocurrency to fund utility infrastructure. There is hundreds of millions of dollars in cryptocurrency, and a lot of the people that hold that are looking for a long-term stable infrastructure item to fund. So what we will be doing is providing a facility for that to occur. We provide the transactive layer for EV charging. We're working on a carbon credits platform where we can facilitate carbon trading. And ultimately we'll be pushing our platform into more jurisdictions. But really what this points out is that what we're bringing in, and we're not the only party in this, is we're riding the wave of the new energy transition. Decentralized storage, generation, the transition from centralized to decentralization. These are the things that are already happening in the world, and our software is a tiny piece on that wave that's facilitating that overall change. So thank you very much for your time today, and if you'd like to get in contact, please contact us either through some of the internet services listed here, or don't hesitate to come grab me after this. Thank you very much.